Hello! This is a video walkthrough of the ASWOU expenditure request form on the Presence platform. ASWOU uses this form for funded clubs to be able to request the use of their budget funds for any purchases they make. This form must be completed and approved by the appropriate parties before your club can make any purchase. To access the expenditure request form, from the admin dashboard on Presence, navigate to the Finance tab. In the upper right-hand corner, you will see a button labeled Create. Click that and select Expenditure from the drop-down menu. Give it a second to load, and you are now looking at the expenditure request form. Let's practice filling it out together. First, enter a title for your request. Please be sure to include the name of your club and something about your request in the title. For the purposes of this walkthrough, let's pretend Wolfie's Fan Club is requesting funds to purchase headbands for an event. Next, you will share some information about your club. As the requester, you will fill out your name, email, and name of your club. Be sure to also include your club advisor's name and email and president's name and email, as both will be required to approve the request before it gets sent off to the ASWOU Director of Business and Finance. If you are the club president, you will share your information both in the Your Name email and Club President Name email sections. Now it's time to share some information about your intended purchase. Enter a title for your requested item. This can be somewhat general. On the memo line, share the purpose for why you need to purchase this item, then select your ASWOU index from the drop-down menu. For your clubs, you will select IFC funding and then clubs and organizations, which will expand to show all of the ASWOU funded clubs. By selecting your budget, you will be able to see the amount available in your index. So always be sure to double check that you have enough money in your account to cover what you are requesting to purchase. As you see here, Wolfie's Fan Club does not have any money left in their index. However, for the purposes of this training, we will continue forward. If your purchase request requires any additional paperwork like an artwork proof, catering waiver, travel request, etc., you will attach it here as an expenditure attachment. These attachments are useful for the approval process, and attaching them directly to the form will help streamline your request by preventing follow-up emails asking for those items. Share the total amount of your purchase, how and where you're wanting to purchase the item, and when you need it by. The most common responses for how you want to purchase something would be the ASWOU Procurement Card, or P card, which is a credit card that the ASWOU office coordinator uses to make purchases, whether at a physical brick-and-mortar store or online. An invoice, which is when a company or business sends an invoice for payment, usually to be paid via check by the office coordinator at a later date. Journal voucher, or JV, which is a direct payment that can be made to an on-campus account, such as the Copy Center or WOO Catering, or, in limited circumstances, a personal reimbursement. Please note, even for a personal reimbursement, the expenditure request must be fully approved before the purchase is made. Otherwise, you would not be eligible for reimbursement for your purchase. On this line, also include where your purchase would be made from. There is a spot below for you to share more information about your vendor. Lastly, be sure to list where you need the item, when you need the item in hand, so ASWOU can do their best to ensure that that timeline is met. This date should be at least 2 to 3 weeks from when you are submitting the request. If you scroll a little further, there's a spot for you to share more information about the purchase details. This is particularly helpful to share details about quantity, links to what needs to be purchased, etc. The more detail you can provide, the better. The last step will be to add information about the vendor from which you want to purchase. The name of the company and a description, their address, and your contact person. The address and contact person are mostly helpful for local businesses versus a company like Amazon. Please be sure to include this information so that the ASWOU office coordinator has everything they need to make your purchase. Again, the more detail you share in your request, the more streamlined the purchase process will be. Before we scroll up to double check our information and submit the request for approval, I wanted to point out one last helpful feature of the form. This little add button will add an additional line item to your request so that you can request multiple purchases in one form. Clubs tend to use this feature when making multiple purchases for one event to keep everything in place. If you do add multiple items to your purchase request, the total at the bottom of the form will reflect the grand total of your entire request. Before submitting, always make sure to double check all of the information, and then scroll to the top and hit the green Submit for Approval button. Once you click this, the request will be sent through a handful of ordered approvals. It will go first to your club president, then your club advisor, both of which are important to ensure that there is leadership approval for your purchase and that everyone is informed. It then goes to the ASWOU Director of Business and Finance, who reviews the request through the lens of ASWOU policy. Next is the ASWOU Advisor, who again gives it another look to ensure the request would be in line with campus and ASWOU policies and guidelines before sending it to the last approver, the ASWOU Office Coordinator. They are an expert in campus policies and will be the final check to ensure the request meets all requirements. Once they approve the request, they will move forward with making the purchase for you and will contact you with next steps. Please note, this process takes time, so the earlier you can submit your requests, the better. If a request gets approved by all parties, then the purchase is able to be made. If a request is denied at any level of the approval process, however, then the purchase cannot be made with your ASWOU funds. If this happens, you will be contacted with the reasoning and you can make adjustments and resubmit a request for an alternative.